The story begins with a mother named Harriet gently tries to lull her baby to sleep in the crib when her daughter suddenly calls out, asking her to stay by her side.
Be with me, Mommy.
Harriet leaves the nursery to comfort her daughter, leaving a small stuffed bird toy inside the crib. But as she steps away, a sinister witch known as Beldum emerges from the shadows. In folklore, Beldum is a terrifying old witch that takes the form of a bird and survives by devouring the souls of children. The scene then shifts to a first-time mother named Harper, who returns to her childhood home with her baby. Living there are her mother, Sadie, and Sadie's boyfriend, Frank, who are renovating the house in preparation to sell it. As Harper makes her way to her room, she notices a certain door and tries to open it, but Sadie quickly stops her, saying it's sealed shut and can't be opened. Not long after, Harper meets Bet, her mother's assistant. Surprised, Harper assumes her mother must be sick since she never expected her to need help. However, Sadie brushes it off, insisting she's perfectly fine and that Bet only assists with the housework. While settling into the room, Harper is startled when a bird suddenly appears out of nowhere. Shocked, she carefully takes it outside, but as she does, she hears a strange noise coming from the roof. Later that evening, the baby suddenly begins crying during dinner. Harper immediately wants to rush upstairs, but Sadie gently stops her, insisting that sometimes it's better to let the baby cry for a while so she can calm herself down. Moments later, the crying unexpectedly stops. But when Harper checks the baby monitor, she sees a dark presence leaning over the crib, as if trying to take her baby away. Panicked, she sprints to the nursery, only to find the same strange bird from earlier perched outside the window. Sadie tries to reassure her, brushing it off as stress and exhaustion. Harper forces herself to act calm and says they should all get some sleep, but deep down, she's shaken with fear. She becomes convinced that something inside that room wants her child. Unable to trust the nursery anymore, Harper drags the crib into her own bedroom and places it beside her bed. That night, Harper is haunted by disturbing nightmares. When she suddenly wakes up, she's horrified to find the crib empty. But the panic quickly fades when she learns that Bet had taken the baby downstairs so Harper could finally rest. Trying to distract herself, Harper offers to help around the house. She joins Bet outside in the garden to rake leaves, but while clearing the ground, she uncovers a tiny grave meant for a baby. The sight leaves her completely stunned, and moments later, she suddenly vomits in shock. Later, Harper relaxes in the bathtub while Sadie watches the baby. But when the baby suddenly starts crying again, Harper asks Sadie to check on her. Moments later, the crying abruptly stops, making it seem like everything is fine. But as Harper sits in the tub, she notices something inside the faucet. A dead bird suddenly slides out of it. Startled, yet disgusted, she still pulls the bird from the faucet and places it in the sink. She then slowly looks toward the mirror, only to see a disturbing figure standing behind her reflection before it violently attacks her. Shaken and terrified, Harper decides to leave the house with her baby. But before she can go, Sadie, Frank, and Bet confront her and insist she cannot leave. They reveal that Harper had previously run away from the house during a mental breakdown, nearly getting both herself and her baby killed. Fearing she might hurt herself again, Sadie brought her back home to keep a close eye on her. Although Harper reluctantly agrees to stay, she remains convinced that something evil is lurking inside the house. Desperate to protect her child, she covers the nursery windows with aluminum foil to keep the crows away. She even checks the roof herself and finds nothing there. Before going to sleep, Harper locks herself inside her room for extra safety. The next morning, she wakes up relieved, believing the foil finally worked. Meanwhile, Frank and Sadie argue about selling the house. Sadie isn't ready to let it go, but Frank insists on allowing buyers to view it. Harper sides with Frank, saying his idea makes more sense. Sadie eventually relents and tells Bet to stay with Harper in the kitchen. During the house tour, Harper and Bet come out offering the visitors cookies, but things quickly become uncomfortable when Harper insists they hold her baby. When they refuse, she suddenly starts breastfeeding in front of them. Disturbed, the family decides to leave early. Afterward, Sadie angrily blames both Harper and Bet for ruining the viewing, especially Bet for failing to keep Harper in the kitchen. Hurt, Bet walks away, and Harper follows her, apologizing and suggesting she quit because of how badly Sadie treats her. But Bet admits she has nowhere else to go and reveals that she's pregnant, leaving Harper surprised and happy. Later at dinner, Sadie becomes disturbed by how attached Harper is to the baby and even tries to take the child away, but Harper refuses. Not long after, Sadie unsettlingly admits that she sometimes feels jealous of the baby because Harper gives it more attention than she does. After Sadie leaves, Harper notices her entering the previously locked room. Curious, she walks over to check it, only to realize the door is still locked. Suddenly, Harper wakes up and realizes it was just a dream. Later that night, she hears strange noises coming from the roof again and notices crow feathers drifting down from above. Moments later, she is horrified to see the witch Beldum sitting there. With a simple wave of her hand, Beldum hypnotizes Harper, nearly causing her to burn her own daughter. Sadie rushes in and struggles with Harper, who desperately insists that a witch is living in the house, poisoning it with dark energy and making her appear insane. But Sadie refuses to believe her and instead thinks Harper simply needs therapy. Unlike Sadie, Bet believes Harper and invites her to sleep in her room to make sure she's okay. When Bet asks what the witch looked like, Harper sketches her appearance. Shockingly, Bet admits she has seen the same figure too. Later that night, Harper is awakened by the sound of Sadie mumbling to herself, repeatedly saying, "It's happening again." Drawn by the voice, Harper follows it down into the basement, where she uncovers boxes filled with old records, property deeds, a birth certificate, a foreclosure notice, and a newspaper article about the death of a 6-month-old baby girl back in 1958. The article reveals that the child's mother, Harriet, believed a witch was behind her daughter's death. Moments later, Harper hears unsettling noises coming from deeper within the basement and discovers several dead crows scattered around. Then, out of the darkness, a mysterious voice calls to her, urging her to come closer. Harper becomes hypnotized by the sight of a crow, but when Beldum suddenly appears, she panics and runs, only to fall down the stairs and badly injure herself. The next morning, she wakes up to discover that her daughter is gone and the bedroom door has been locked from the outside. Desperate, Harper tries to escape. Soon, Sadie and Frank open the door, deeply concerned and convinced that Harper is losing her sanity. For the baby's safety, they decide to keep her away from the child. Sadie gives her anxiety medication, while Frank tells her that if she can go 1 week without another incident, she'll be allowed to see her daughter again. But the strange events continue. Harper hears the locked room being opened and once again hears disturbing noises coming from the roof. When she investigates, she finds Bet, who secretly hands her a book, explaining that it's where she first learned about the witch. The book belonged to Harriet Purnelly, the mother who lost her baby years ago. Inside is a diary describing her life after moving into the house. Harriet writes that ever since her daughter was born, she felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as though something terrible was waiting for them. She claims a creature called Beldum, a horrifying bird-like witch that feeds on children, took her baby. The diary is also filled with disturbing sketches of the creature. As Harper reads, a bird suddenly appears nearby, and she strangely begins singing before violently crushing it. The following day, Harper is finally allowed out of the room. She appears calmer now, while Sadie grows increasingly stressed over failing to sell the house. In the basement, Harper is stunned to discover that the dead crows are suddenly gone. Bet insists there were never any dead crows there in the first place. Harper then notices the crow drawings again, and Bet explains that Harriet was the one who sketched them after her baby died. Later, while taking a shower, Harper hears a little girl's voice coming from the baby monitor, repeating the same chilling words. That night, tired of living in fear, Harper decides to fight back and crafts a weapon to confront the witch herself. Afterward, she appears calmer and more composed, while Sadie slowly becomes the unstable one, growing more stressed, irritable, and constantly angry. Later, while Harper and Bet are talking, another potential buyer arrives at the house. Sadie tries to keep the visitor away from them, but the woman approaches anyway, and Harper warmly offers to show her the garden she and Bet have been restoring. However, the visitor is horrified when she notices a baby's grave in the yard and immediately tries to leave. Harper calmly explains that she was disturbed by it at first too, but later understood that families in the past often buried loved ones close to home to feel connected to them. She even describes the grave as a kind of guardian angel protecting the future owners. Surprisingly, her explanation works, and the woman decides to make an offer on the house. Later, Bet leaves Harper a note saying she felt her baby kick for the first time. Harper is genuinely happy for her. But that same night, Harper suddenly feels like she's suffocating, and when she coughs, crow feathers spill from her mouth. While reading Harriet's diary again, Harper sees a drawing of the witch entering a room. Convinced Beldum has returned, she grabs her weapon, opens the door, and immediately strikes the figure in the darkness. But it turns out to be Bet. The next day, a caseworker visits Harper to discuss her recent trauma and what it means for her condition. Harper has no memory of her previous case. She then learns that Sadie is actually her legal guardian, with control over her medical care and finances. Desperate, Harper insists that a witch is behind everything and begs to see her daughter. But to everyone else, she only sounds like a deeply traumatized woman who can no longer distinguish reality from delusion. Confined to her room, Harper spends her days staring at the ceiling, waiting for something terrifying to appear. Before going to sleep one night, she reads in Harriet's diary that Harriet eventually took her own life. That same night, Harper notices that Bet has returned to the house. The following day, she asks Sadie for permission to see her and make amends. Sadie agrees. Harper apologizes for what happened, and Bet forgives her, revealing that she's having a baby girl. Before leaving, Bet secretly hands Harper the key to the mysterious locked room so she can finally find her daughter. Using the key, Harper unlocks the door and climbs into the dark attic above the house, where she finally uncovers the horrifying truth. Harriet, the woman from the diary, was actually her all along. Her full name is Harriet Harper Purnelly. After losing her daughter Christine years ago, Harper completely lost touch with reality. Her trauma became so severe that she forgot she had grown old and convinced herself she still had a baby. She even forgot that she had another daughter, Sadie. Sadie was never her mother. She was her daughter, who had spent years acting as Harper's legal guardian while desperately trying to care for her mentally broken mother. Ever since witnessing the horrors connected to the witch, Harper had become consumed by paranoia, seeing the entity everywhere and believing it was coming for her imaginary child. Sadie tried everything to help her return to reality, but nothing worked, leaving her emotionally exhausted and constantly stressed. Eventually, Sadie hired Bet to help take care of Harper. In the end, the terrifying truth is revealed. Christine's death was never caused by Beldum. The baby accidentally suffocated under Harper's care after Harper placed a small stuffed crow toy inside the crib for comfort. Unable to cope with the overwhelming guilt and trauma, Harper's mind created the legend of Beldum, turning the harmless crow toy into a soul-stealing witch. Believing an evil entity took her child became her way of escaping the painful reality that Christine died in a tragic accident. At the end, Harper finally accepts the truth and tearfully apologizes to Sadie for forgetting she was her daughter. Sadie comforts her, saying the important thing is that Harper can finally see her again. Harper then lets go of the imaginary version of her baby, and the two embrace. Sometime later, Bet gives birth to a daughter who is raised alongside Sadie, Frank, and Harper as one family.
If you enjoy this video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps like this. Thank you for watching.